G'day, mate. So I remember when I had to move in 2011, what a traumatic experience that was. And most of the trauma was because it made me see things about myself and about my life that I'd been able to distract myself from and ignore prior to having to move. So once I saw that I had to move, then I saw how limited my financial resources were, and I saw how limited my options were, and it just was a very painful reminder of the difficult place I was in at my life then. I was age 45 and I could barely scrape together a first and last month rent, and that's what was so traumatic. It's like prior to having to move, I could kind of go along thinking that my life was okay, and then now that I had to find a new place to live and I had to see how limited my options were, some of the options were quite downright nasty. Just on a major boulevard, I've noticed a lot of people will rent a home or even buy a home on a major thoroughfare, which seems to me insane. And so I'm thinking with the coronavirus, much of the trauma is that it's forcing people to confront things that they are able to distract themselves from prior. So I assume there are a lot of small businesses that have just been barely making it the past few years. And now, thanks to the coronavirus, business is done. It's kaput. It's over. Right? So they're having to finally confront a reality that their business is no longer viable. And so for many years, I thought the only way I could make a living was as a writer, as a blogger, and I just didn't want to think about any other option. Then when I finally accepted in, I think, November, December of 2007, that wasn't really viable anymore. Once I accepted that, it was kind of a relief to to move on with my life. Right? Once you accept reality, it comes as a relief. So if you got a business that's just barely making it, and you finally accept that it's not viable, then it's got to be some kind of relief there. So I saw a funny post on Twitter yesterday. It noted that during this coronavirus shutdown, a lot of people are discovering, one, that they have no hobbies. So my father, for example, had no hobbies. My father was simply about preparing his sermons, preparing his books, preparing his articles, preparing his mission. And he had no hobbies to fall back on. So he died at age 90. Luckily, he was mentally sharp until last couple of weeks. But in retirement, he had no hobbies to fall back on. He didn't enjoy gardening or golf or painting, or just had no hobbies. And so I think a lot of people during this coronavirus time are realizing they have no hobbies. So I'm not sure. Is anyone saying anything in the chat? I'm not seeing any chat on my phone. It's maybe just with my phone and the app. So, one unpleasant discovery that many people are confronting if they had no hobbies right now. Then what are some of the other unpleasant discoveries people are making right now? Write them down. Oh, they're discovering they have no friends. So how many people have checked in on you over the past week, checked in on your welfare? If it's less than 6, probably living socially isolated. There's probably a whole world of friendship and human connection out there that you just don't have access to, and that would dramatically improve the quality of your life if you could access that. And then another thing that people discovered in this mandatory coronavirus shutdown is they don't like themselves. Right? If you can't distract yourself with work, going to social gatherings, if you can't distract yourself anymore with the things out there in the world, and you just have to stay home with yourself, then you may very well find that you don't like yourself. And that can be shattering. So, not a lot of traffic on Olympic Boulevard this morning. And then another thing that people are discovering during the coronavirus shutdown is that nobody likes them very much. So one, they have no hobbies. Two, they're finding out they have no friends. Three, they're finding out they don't like themselves very much. And four, they're finding out that nobody else likes them very much either. So these can be some pretty shattering revelations. But I read this theory of change, that people encounter a shattering event like coronavirus, and they discover that the tools they have for dealing with life are just not adequate to the circumstance. Bass guitar says, I'm a guitarist, lock me away with my guitar and amp and I'm a happy camper. Excellent. So when you discover that your way of approaching life doesn't work, you will go through a period of collapse. Now that just may mean you crawl into bed for an hour or two. And then you assemble a new way of approaching life that seems adequate to deal with the change in circumstance that you didn't anticipate. So no, they're not arresting people for going for a walk. See, I'm socially distancing. See, there's no one within 6 feet of me. I'm being a good, responsible citizen, practicing social distancing. Look at how empty Olympic Boulevard is right now here in Beverly Hills. So then you develop a new self to try to deal with the change in circumstance, and then you try it out. And if it works, then you will select people to be in your new world who reflect who you are now. So, for example, when I converted to Judaism, that came out of one, I collapsed. My life, as I was going about it, just did not work anymore. So went through a period of collapse that lasted for years, and I developed, a provisional self. I'm going to rebuild myself around Judaism. And then I tried it out, and I think this could work. And then I would engage in a process of selecting people to be in my new life according to my new conception of myself. So now I conceived of myself as being a part of Judaism, and so I'd largely select Jews to be in my new life, and people who are congruent with my new identity as a Jew. And then I got into my Judaism, did that for a while, and went through another collapse, and I said, let me try out 12-step programs. So I got into 12-step programs. I developed a new approach to life, a new sense of myself, provisional sense, which I try out, seems to work, I like it, and then I would select people for my life largely on the basis of whether they were congruent with my recovery. So I didn't mean that they were in 12-step programs, but I didn't want people who are actively in addiction too close to my life. So I like that model. That inevitably as we go through life, we will go through periods of collapse, and then we reconstitute ourselves, we discover a new approach to life, a new way of looking at things. And then we say, okay, let me try something else here. And then we try it out. We try out our new selves. And if it works, then we select people on the basis of how well they fit with our new conception of ourselves. So one thing that's on the forefront of my mind today is I want to feel good about myself. And so I want to be using my time productively. So I want to be doing my work, producing my income. I want to do the positional release procedures every morning that find, locate, and release muscle spasms and unnecessary tension in my body. And let's see if we can make the light here on Olympic and Robertson. Okay. Whew. So a mile that way, a mile behind me is the 10 freeway and the darker parts of town. And ahead of me, we're going to journey into Beverly Hills, posh Beverly Hills. So I want to use my time productively. That begins with getting up 5:30 a.m. to 6 a.m., doing my positional release procedures, doing certain exercises so that I don't have back pain and other trouble. Getting on the phone with my sponsees. So I find that's a source of great spiritual energy and inspiration. Feels good when I'm able to be of service to other people, able to give back that which was so generously given to me. Then I want to prepare high quality YouTube streams like this one that will have the power to transform your life. Hey, there's the Back Institute. So, just do some positional release, some Alexander technique, guys, and you need to go to the Back Institute. You have to likely skip all that non-traumatic spine surgery. So I don't want to go back to that empty feeling. I want to go back to Netflixing out in the middle of the day. So I want to steadily build esteemable choices upon esteemable choices. Do my exercises, do my 12-step phone meetings, talk to my sponsees. Looks like a call center agent who lost it and left the office. And I love reading the newspapers. So every morning, about 2 or 3 hours after I get up, I read the LA Times, the New York Times, Washington Post, and Wall Street Journal. I subscribe to all 4 publications. I also subscribe to The Athletic, but there's nothing really going on in sports, so I'm not watching that very much. So yeah, I do want to check out the news, but I can get lost in it. And it makes me dizzy sometimes after a while. Yeah, FM Alexander was from Tasmania. Yeah, YouTube streamers are essential. We're one of the California's essential workers, mate. We're exempt from the new restrictions. But look, nobody's out and about, mate. Look at that. Look how empty it is. Empty, empty, empty Beverly Hills. So, the most mentally demanding stuff that I do every day pretty much is YouTube live streaming. And after I do 3 or 4 hours of it, I'm usually wiped out. Takes up most of my cognitive capacity for the day is being expended But if I can then do some book reading for a couple of hours, that's a good bonus. Or often I'm so tired after live streaming that I just lie down and listen to books on Audible or on YouTube. So right now I'm listening to William James' Varieties of the Religious Experience. So I read the book a few weeks ago, now I'm listening to it. Oh, I should have worn my mask. That probably reduced my audio quality. So audio quality is it's more important than my health, right? I'm here to give you guys that high quality audio that you come to this channel for. Does anyone notice how much my audio has improved over the past week or so? Finally got my audio levels right. Look at this, look how empty Beverly Hills is. I left my cricket bat at home. It might be illegal to walk around with a cricket bat. Because it may be illegal to walk around with a baseball bat or a softball bat just down the street. Because it could be used as a weapon. Peak audio. Yeah, I think I finally got my audio levels right on my mainstream. Okay, so I want to like myself. So that means for me just like layering good decisions on top of good decisions. Starting with that cold shower first thing in the morning, following it up with a 12-step phone meeting, my positional release exercises, talking to sponsees, had breakfast of kefir, drank I think a liter of kefir. Finally, grocery deliveries are rolling again in West LA, Beverly Hills. That feels good. So I'm all stocked up. I've got about 14 cartons of almond milk in the fridge. I'm prepared to hunker down for tough times. So, if I do good quality YouTube streams that I feel good about, then that's another esteemable act. So I don't feel empty inside. Like when I was looking at a lot of porn or just watching a lot of movies during the day, it kind of makes you feel degenerate and empty inside. I remember in August 2001, I quit blogging about the porn industry, and so I was just finding my way for about a year. I decided to write a book on Hollywood movie producers. So I sold Luke4.com for $25,000 and just lived off that money for a year. Went about interviewing movie producers. And then I got a new girlfriend in like the summer of 2002. And I was still interviewing movie producers, but I didn't have any money coming in, which was quite a disturbing feeling. And my girlfriend would ask, what'd you do today? I tell her about the 3 movies that I watched. She was not impressed because she was an executive. Okay, she had a position of both prestige and responsibility. But she told me she wouldn't date me if I was writing on the porn industry. But between sitting around watching movies all day, she was actually relieved when I got back to blogging on the porn industry. So that's a really sick feeling when your bank account just keeps dropping, and you have no plan in place to staunch the bleeding and build your reserves back up. So now luckily I've got income coming in, I've got work I can do from home. I'm not in desperate shape. So I can enjoy the spare time that I get. And this is the Horace Mann School. So what's essential for me feeling good about myself is doing my exercises, eating right, getting enough sleep. So to do that, I need to stop watching Netflix before I go to bed. So just lie down, listen to an audio book, and detox. get away from that screen. So if I get a good night's sleep, do my exercises, if I'm reading books. So what am I reading right now? I just read Kevin Starr's History of California, the one volume history. He's written about 8 books on history of California, but this is like a one volume summary that came out in 2007. So I just read that. Trying to set up some book club streams over the next few days. I really want to talk about Middlemarch, the George Eliot novel. And I read a book on Breaking Bad and philosophy. So there's a whole series. There's about 60 books where they take some popular TV show or comic troupe, then relate how the themes they discuss relate to philosophy. So I read the book on Breaking Bad and philosophy. I'm watching back Breaking Bad. It's my second time through. And reading the unofficial guide to Breaking Bad. It's taking episode by episode and I realize how much I miss. So one good test of someone's intelligence is how many cues they can pick up when they watch a TV show or a movie. Like the smarter the person is, the more quickly they'll see the direction that a movie or a TV show are going in. So I've often found myself quite slow on the uptake compared to the people around me. So that's what happens when you surround yourself with people who are a lot smarter than you are. So I've downloaded a bunch of Kevin Starr's books on the history of California. That's on my agenda. I'm going to read some more books. Whoa, I don't think I'm going to touch that. I almost touched it, but I didn't. Managed to restrain myself. Okay, I'll just touch it with my elbow. Okay. So I'll read some more books on Carl Schmitt. But what are the important things for you to like yourself? What are the important ingredients? So I guess one is that I don't feel guilty for needlessly hurting other people. So that's important to maintaining my sense of self. My sense of self is that I'm a good person. So if I act in a way that's unnecessarily hurtful or damaging to other people, then that damages my sense of self. Getting enough sleep, that's very important to me, feeling good about myself. So integrity, what does integrity mean? So I think it has something to do with the word integral, which means really whole. So we want to feel whole, and that means that we don't lead a compartmentalized life. So I used to live my life in all these different separate compartments. So I had my Alexander Technique world, and I'd have my Los Angeles Press Club world, have my world of Orthodox Judaism, and I'd have some darker and more erotic worlds. They didn't all fit together. And when people from different spheres of my life would meet with me in the middle, make me feel very awkward, very ill at ease. So now there's nothing that I got going in my life that I'd be ashamed if you knew about. Like there's nothing that I'm doing in my life that if it was accurately reported on the front page of the New York Times would be devastating. You wouldn't feel let down or disappointed. So that's new. And so that's to me, that's integrity. It's integration, that all the different parts of your life fit together. So when I do a live stream, I just operate as though everybody in my life is watching. From people that I work with, from clients, from people I pray with, from people I party with, from people I do Alexander Technique with. I just assume that everybody knows everything. And that allows me to lead an integrated life. I'm not just speaking to one particular audience, say on YouTube. And this conversation is, worlds apart from all the other conversations that I have in my life. No. So that's one good thing about YouTube's new speech restrictions is that speech on YouTube now is pretty much the same as speech in real life. So there's very little difference between how I speak on these live streams, how I speak during an ordinary day to people in all different areas of my life. So I had this one sleep doctor tell me how important it was to go for a walk every morning, get sunshine on my face and my eyes. Somehow it wakes up the body clock. Another important thing for my health I found is keeping my weight under 170 pounds. So if I keep my weight, I'm 6 foot, I keep my weight under 170 pounds, and then my air passages stay more open at night. I breathe better when I'm sleeping. Not as much of a collapse in my larynx when I sleep. The air gets through and I get better quality sleep. So if you snore, you have sleep apnea. Snoring is a sign of interrupted breathing when you're sleeping. And so getting a good night's sleep is probably the one thing that would make the biggest difference in people's lives, including mine. When I have a good night's sleep, I'm a totally different person. And you can tell the quality of someone's sleep by the extent of the bags around their eyes. So I've got mild to moderate bags under my eyes. So still got some room to go on improving my sleep hygiene, getting good night's sleep. Yeah, getting good night's sleep. It gives me the energy to do the right things in my life. When I don't have the energy to do the right things in my life, then I get into a negative cycle. Yeah, exercise, tremendous help with sleep. Let's say I get a good night's sleep, then I have much less self-discipline. I'll probably try to get myself going with a cup of coffee. Then that caffeine stays in your system. So even 18 hours later, you've still got 20% of the caffeine in your system. So that helps with, that does not help with sleep. So the thing that enables you to power through with a lack of sleep is the very thing that makes obtaining such sleep more difficult. So this crisis shattering a lot of people because they're not prepared. They didn't have 3 months, let alone 6 months of savings. They didn't have 3 months of food stocked away. They didn't prepare with Luke. So crises will explode our conceptions of ourselves and of the world. We will realize in a crisis that the way we're approaching life doesn't cut it. So we will respond to that with collapse. And in the collapse, we will conceive of a new self, a provisional self, go in a new direction. So I remember interviewing a well-known, or moderately known Hollywood movie producer and casting director. He was raised a Christian, but when he went into Hollywood, he was secular and enjoying the party lifestyle. And then he just got to the end of his rope. I think one day his dog in his house had diarrhea, and he was just like cleaning up his dog's diarrhea all over his house, and it was stinking, and it was such a mess, and he just fell to his knees and just started praying for the first time in decades. So he came to that point of collapse, and in the collapse he fashioned a new approach to life. And then he tried out this whole prayer Christian thing, found it worked. Then he started self-selecting his social circle on the basis of his new self, and thereby built his new life. So anyone in the chat going through collapse right now, as this crisis revealed that the methods that you've used to deal with life have not worked. So during all this quarantine time at home, you may find that you don't even like yourself very much. So for this gentleman, who the movie producer I was talking about, he simply just got disgusted. The feeling of disgust and of filth and frustration just built up until he couldn't take it anymore, and he collapsed. Realized that his secular, hedonistic approach to life didn't work anymore for him. So got on his knees, started fashioning a new approach to life, the Christian approach. And then he tried it out and he found it worked. So I think a lot of people who find their approach to life doesn't work, and this coronavirus pandemic will reveal that to them in a way that they can't ignore anymore. Maybe for years that their approach to life just wasn't cutting it. Now, with this coronavirus, they can't afford to face up to that truth any longer. They can no longer live in the lie. And look at how empty Olympic Boulevard is. Sure, another thing people discover is they need multiple sources of income. That not only do they need to, say, work for someone else, but they need to have their own home business in addition. Or in addition to having their own home business, they may find that they need to have a job working for someone else in addition. Make people realize that the careers that they were on just weren't going to cut it, right? How long can you pursue acting or writing or one of these exciting, glamorous careers if it just doesn't pay the bills, right? You just get another round of headshots, but it doesn't really lead to any paying work. So a lot of people who've had ongoing roles on network TV series who've eventually had to go out and get a real job, whether it's as a secretary or as a tree trimmer. Okay, here we go. And then people will find out in this virus that they don't have hobbies. They just don't have enough passions in their life. They don't have enough interests. So this will be a stimulus for change. And people will find out that other people don't like them very much. Right? How many people have checked in on you to find out your welfare? Right now, if no one's checking in with you, then it's an indication people don't like you very much. People don't like you very much, probably because you've been prioritizing feeling special rather than feeling connected. You've been living in delusions of grandeur, perhaps. You've been trying to soothe your anxiety through telling yourself how special you are, how unique you are, what amazing things you're going to do when you get your own movie studio, or become editor of a major newspaper, or run a Fortune 500 corporation, or run for political office. And you become that guy sitting at the bar, tells you what it could have been, would have been, should have been. So I think this crisis is going to cause a lot of people to reevaluate their relationships. I remember when I got really sick, age 22, with chronic fatigue syndrome, and I was bedridden for the next 6 years. And I realized that I had a severe lack of friends in my life, that my social connections were sorely lacking. That was very painful. So I started reaching out to people in a very awkward and wild way, and connected with a friend from my teenage years who was very religious, who was kind of a leader in the local Seventh-day Adventist church, and he was now doing his PhD in moral philosophy. We started corresponding, and early on in our correspondence he said, it feels like, Luke, the thing that you need most in your life right now is community. He was right, because I was living in Newcastle, California, which is about 40 minutes drive north of Sacramento, up Interstate 80. Living with my parents. It was isolated. Everybody had like a minimum of 7 acres. I was living in isolated rural Newcastle, California. And I sorely lacked community because I was bedridden. And I think that was the instigation for, okay, I've been thinking about converting to Judaism for years. Now I need to actually do it. I need to take concrete steps to making this real. I need to attach myself to a community. So I was this Seventh-day Adventist doing his PhD in moral philosophy who switched some gears in my mind circa 1992. And I realized, okay, I need to get serious. I need to actually carry out this conversion to Judaism after several years of thinking about it. So I found myself a new way of living, found myself a new community. But then even that didn't work because all the emotional addictions that had gotten in my way before I was a Jew were still getting in my way after my conversion. So I tried therapy. 1998, something like April 1998, I went into therapy every week. I'd do that for 10 of the next 20 years. I'd done probably 20 or 30 therapy sessions prior to this, but now it was like every week I'd do a double session every Friday. So for an hour and a half. I don't know how effective it was, but before I downplay its effectiveness, I should say how much worse my life could have been without it. Like, who knows what dark corners I avoided simply because I had this person that I was talking to every week. So I was getting honest with at least one person. But perhaps it helped mitigate the disastrous direction of my life. But my life did not start turning around until I got into 12-step programs. So yeah, a lot of time alone. Or force people to confront that they don't like themselves very much. And if they look deeper, they'll find because they're trying to run the whole show. I'm watching Breaking Bad, second time through, and you see Walter White just trying to control everybody. He's just trying to run the whole show, trying to run his partner Jesse's life. He's trying to dominate and control his wife's life, his son's life, his friends' lives. When we're trying to run the show, when we're trying to be not just the lead actor, but the director and the stagehand and the costume designer, when we're trying to run the show, exhaust people. Is liking oneself a worthwhile exercise? Yeah, but it's one of those things that cannot be approached directly. It is the consequence of having other priorities. So you're not going to like yourself if your primary goal in living is to satisfy your natural inclinations, such as towards social prestige, towards money, towards sex and romance. If you're just living your life to satisfy these basic human inclinations, you're never going to be satisfied because they'll get out of whack. So you'll be so intent on satisfying yourself sexually, you make all sorts of decisions that alienate yourself from other people, ruin your reputation, hurt your ability to excel in your profession. Or if you put making money out of proportion to other values, then you'll bruise people in your pursuit and you'll fracture relationships. So what happens is we have these natural human inclinations, but they very easily get out of whack. So we pursue them absurdly beyond what makes sense. I mean, that's what I did. Like I ran wild with my sexual inclination for decades and it didn't work. Ran wild with my inclination for glory and attention. That didn't work. There's nothing wrong with these inclinations, these natural passions. They just need appropriate guidance. So when we're living life out of our 5 major character defects, which are inconsideration for other people, dishonesty, fear, that's fear out of proportion to reality, self-seeking and selfishness. Okay, when you're coming out of those places, you're not going to like yourself and other people aren't going to like you either and your life's not going to work. And you likely won't make a lot of money either, or be able to hold on to it. And we're back on Olympic Boulevard. Whoa. Hardly anyone's here. So instead, you shift. So let's say you got a fear right now of you don't have enough money to pay your bills. So you write about how does this fear serve me? Well, it serves as an instigation to go out there and earn more money. It keeps me focused on what should be primarily important right now. Then you write about how does the fear hurt me? So it's paralyzing, it robs me of energy, robs me of generosity, it keeps me small, keeps my life small, it kind of circumcises my choices, makes them smaller, because I'm so paralyzed by the fear, got so much fear that I can't make good decisions, because I'm coming from a place of trauma. So then you get clear about all the ways that the fear is hurting you. And then you write about how it would benefit you to come out of the opposite of fear, a spirit of generosity, God-seeking, faith-seeking, love and service to others. So that would free you up for new possibilities for earning money. It would enable you to interact with other people from a kinder, more effective place so that you develop your relationships with others. And your prosperity is really large part measure your ability to contribute to the lives of other people. And you're going to contribute to others much more. You come with an attitude of generosity, love and service rather than fear, selfishness and self-seeking. So the opposite of inconsideration is consideration. So when we operate with consideration, other people like us more and we like ourselves more. The opposite of dishonesty is honesty. So when we come from a place of honesty, we don't have to keep track of our lies. We don't have to be afraid of people. We get a better reputation. We become known as more reliable. And we'll feel better about ourselves. So instead of coming from fear, we come from faith, love and service. Instead of being inconsiderate, we devote ourselves to be considerate to other people. Instead of being self-seeking, we become God-seeking. Instead of being selfish, we become generous. And from these places, everything just works much better. Then you feel good about yourself. Other people like you more. You're more at ease in yourself. So there are times in my life when if I was just on my own, I'd just feel miserable. Just feel absolutely miserable. Uncomfortable in my own skin. Have to find a source of distraction. Watch a movie or read a novel or throw myself into my work. But if you come out of your character assets when you approach life rather than your character defects, you're going to like yourself. Other people are going to like you more. You'll be able to sit alone and be at ease, be at peace, be calm. You have to enjoy going for a walk on a sunny day in beautiful Beverly Hills. Other people will like you more, so you'll have more people in your life. You won't be as lonely. You'll have more chances for prosperity. I don't like the connection between others and your own self-worth, but we're all people. Yeah. There is no sense of genuine self-worth if it's not tied to our ability to connect to other people. Man is not an island. So, if you're not getting along with other people, you are not going to feel very good about yourself. We are wired to connect. If you don't connect with other people, you'll be forced to connect to a substance or a process to distract yourself from your pain, from that vast emptiness that comes from the inability to connect with others. So you'll fill yourself with, say, sports addiction or a gambling addiction or porn addiction or a work addiction or an extreme workout addiction. We are wired to connect. Need to connect with other people. The way to connect with other people is to come out of our character assets of honesty, consideration, God-seeking, love, generosity, service, selflessness. Bye-bye.